I'm going to detail some CNC work on how to do curved framing. So I've got a curved wall, it's got a curve at the top, and it's got this arch curve. So we've got two different curves I'm going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some reference boxes because I want to do a 3/8 for bendy ply and then my 2.5 inch for framing. So I'm going to make a couple of reference boxes to kind of help me do those dimensions, and I'm gonna put that right here. That's my 3/8 box, and then I want one for 2.5 inch for my framing, right? And doing it as a box means I just don't have to think about which way it goes and how that happens, right? So now I've got those. Those are great. I put those on layer 1. I'm working on layer 1. This is on my reference layer. I'm going to copy this to layer 1 at this point, and then I'm going to turn off my reference layer. I don't want to mess with my reference layer. I want to just leave it as something that I can go back to reference. So now I go into my node edit mode, and I go by hitting N, and then I can cut right at those two nodes. Because what I'm doing is I want to isolate the top of this line, because I want to duplicate this shape a couple of times. So I'm going to take this, Control C, Control V, right? Copy and paste. I'm going to do that a lot. And I'm going to make this shape. All right, so I've got that. Now I can move that away. Now you see it doesn't have ends. I'm going to fix that after a bit here. So I'm going to take this shape now because I want my 2.5 inch. And I'm going to pop to those points there. Now, I probably don't need this anymore, so I can actually use this to do one of the ends, right? So if the scissor tool likes me, yeah, there it goes. And then otherwise, you can just use the polyline tool, which is right here. And if you click, you should be, it should go right to those nodes. And look, it's dragging that. I can hit my space bar and say, hey, I don't want you to continue that line, because I want to start a new one, and I'm going to do the new one right here. Space bar again, and then there's that. Now you want to make sure that these shapes are closed, because right now they're all individual lines, right? So I've got that. It's got the end that's already closed. I'm going to close that to open to a closed one, and I'm going to close up this shape as well. So just make sure all that stuff's selected. 4 open to 1 closed. There it is. So that's all joined together. Now, I want to do a 3/8 reveal at the top of my shape, because that's going to be, and I'm doing this for both Hollywood and Broadway style, because just because it's a flat surface doesn't mean you can't have dimensionality to it. Of course you can. This is theater. We're all about cheating and making fake things look real. So if you want to make it 12 inches to come back, that's just a 12-inch reveal on that plywood. And bendy ply is great, and then the rest of it's flat, except for maybe your reveal inside here, which is what we're going to approach next, because look at that, that looks great. All right, so for this, I'm going to copy and paste this over here, because I want to do a different thing, and I want to show you why it's good for the inner arch, but not so much for the top arch of this shape. So for this, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to do an offset here. And I'm going to do an inward offset of 3/8 of an inch, again for my bendy plywood, and there it creates that new bendy shape. The reason I didn't want to do it at the top here is it does the whole thing and it comes in. So I'd have to clip this and continue this. It doesn't make as much sense, because then I have to fix a lot more. All right, so now I'm on the new shape. I want to go in again 2.5 inches for my framing setup, right? So that looks great. So now I want to isolate these vectors in here so that it's just the shape I need and I don't need the whole wall. So for that, I'm just going to make a box. I'm going to take this box and I'm going to extend it here. And then that's great. And now I can just grip the other side and extend it that way. Now for all the remaining vectors, I go and I use my little scissor tool and make them go away. And look at that, I've got all the vectors I need. Okay, so I still want to isolate the it made a little weird line up there at the top. I don't know why, but we're going to get rid of that real quick. I still want to isolate the 3/8 bendy ply from the framing. So I'm going to do this where I copy and paste again. So I have two things, and one of them I'm going to make my 3/8 ply. There's that. And the other one I'm going to make my framing, right? So now I've got those pieces, and they're independent from each other again. Just put them back together the way they were. And then I can take this whole setup of CNC part and bring it over here. And I'm going to grip it at the bottom of the arch because that's what's going to match the top of the designer's framing layout. So from here, should be able to start. I wanted to put everything together so that my jamb uprights and my outside uprights, everything can start going in. And so from here, I can start differentiating between a setup for Hollywood framing or for Broadway framing. So then that's when I can start making some changes. But this is my initial setup to get going. All right, so here we're going to get into Hollywood framing on these flat, on these curved surfaces. So I need framing for the tops. And then I'll Control C, Control V, and over here, that's okay for now. Control C, Control V, and then down here, I'll put it there. I realize I'm going to have another piece down there, but for right now, this is fine. And then I'll do lay in some reference for other types of framing. The thing I need right now is these pieces so that they go up to meet the top of the flat. So I'm going to extend that line so that it goes up to the top of the flat, and extend that line so it goes up into the top of the flat. And it's intersecting this, and that's on purpose too. These are also going to matter, and we'll start over here actually. So what I want to have happen, I've got about 2.5 inches right here of good solid framing material. I don't want to go much larger than that because then it just gets heavy, and I want to avoid unnecessarily heavy things. So I'm just going to inch this up a little bit here, and then I'm going to modify this piece. So going into my node edit tool, right, I can modify this so that it fits around the contour that I'm going to do here. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. I to insert a point, right? And then now I want to extend this down here so I've got a bit more meat to go into. So if you see here, now I can shoot in with narrow crown staples into this front piece and the back piece, because again, we're doing a Hollywood style framing construction, right? So that is going to make that piece fit well. And then same thing over here, and maybe this is farther in than I need to be. It probably is, so I can adjust that. And then again, go into node edit mode by hitting N, select the line that you want to modify, and then just start to modify, right? And if you're looking at this and you're going, oh well, the approach is this way, and I want to kind of square that up, you know, simply square it up, right? No big trick to it. Again, over to here, and then this one somewhere in that neighborhood there, right? So real easy to do, and now all of a sudden I've got framing that works for me, and allows me to get a narrow crown stapler into it, and I don't give up that much, and I'm able to keep the structure in place. I to insert a point, right, and then just put a point in, and then come down to that one, right? So easy. And then the same thing over here, except this time we're coming in from the other side with our narrow crown stapler. So I can come over to here, N for node edit, shift, and maybe I'll add another point here, I, and then bring that down to there. So now I've got structure to be able to put that in. Again, thinking in terms of narrow crown staples, it's pretty easy. I'm going to move these, for now at least, onto my reference layer. Oh, actually, hold on. Move to layer reference. And then I'm going to turn the reference layer off because I want to show you one other thing here. Is this point, so the CNC is going to come in with these round bits and it's not going to get that curve to fit well. So if you want your squared shoulder to match your squared piece of material, you need to relieve this corner. That's real easy to do here with this fillet command, and you can do a dog bone. Right here I've got set up a 1/4 inch radius, and I'm just going to hit that corner, right? So now that let in will allow my piece to go flat, my flat piece to go flat into that corner, right? So easy, easy. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the right thing. Here, I'm just going to move that away. Go back to my fillet command, dog bone, boom, right there. And so you can see it here. So as I move this piece back in, you can see I'm going to get this piece flat and fit in that opening, right? And the rounded nature of that CNC bit is going to hog out that material to allow me to do that. All right, so now I've got all that in place. I'm going to turn my reference lines back on. So the next part will be down here, and I'm going to start messing with this. So I'm going to start messing with this curved piece down here. You can see I've added another piece here, the same thing I was doing before. But for this piece, you see that we're going to kind of go past this framing piece or into this framing piece, which is great. We're actually just going to do like a dado notch into the framing on either side. But I want to make a nice flat characteristic that's easy to dado notch in to that component. And so I've got my reference layer on that. I don't want that. I want to turn my reference layer off, and this is in. Very good. Okay, so you can see my 3/8 is going to kind of make this nice little curve here, right? This part, it doesn't exist. It won't exist because I just don't need it. And then the rest of this frame out here, I'm going to start modifying that. So here I put this piece next to it because I'm going to kind of come down to about here with it, and that's going to be what I'm going to use as the part that I'm going to put in place, right? So you can see here, I'm just going to line it up, pop right there, and then I'm going to make a nice squared up shoulder here for this to go to. So here, for purposes of this is just going to make my life a little easier. I'm going to move that to the reference layer so it's out of my way. And now I'm going to start clipping the parts that I don't need, right? So I can clip away, and then clip away. And now I've got a nice squared up bit, and I'm going to clip, and now it's all one part, right? So now that's all joined together nicely. And I could do the same thing on the other side, or I could do the same technique I did a little while ago, where I just would make this box go from the center of that and the center of that, and I don't need that one, so we'll delete that one. And so I can take this, I can clip the extra stuff, and then rotate it on itself. So I'll just get rid of those extra lines. Boop, boop, boop. For the time being, I'll just move this to the reference layer so it's out of my way. Continue cutting. Don't need that, don't need that. And then at this point, actually, I can do this the same trick of the node edit tool, right? I don't know why it gave me that, but we'll tell you what, we'll delete one of those. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Hold on a second. I'm not quite sure what it's doing there. All right, so we can cut it here, cut it here. What are you doing? Yeah. All right, we'll cut there. Cut there. So that piece, well, that was weird. D for delete, okay. So now we've got this piece. Oh, we got an extra little guy down here. Well, we don't need that, and that won't make any difference for us in terms of mirroring this object. So we're going to mirror this to the left this time, create a mirrored copy, and then we'll select that one, close out of that drawing, and then we'll just say, hey, join those two things together. Now it had that little extra bit over here, so hold on a second. We'll just shift there, delete that. Oh, there's another bit there. There we are. All right. There's one in the middle too. That's why it's being weird. All right. So we'll grab that, put it right back where it's supposed to go, and then so on. So now, if we look at our reference layer, again, we are intersecting through that, and then we'll have to dado out some notches on both sides of that to allow for that frame to interact. Last thing is I added this piece in the middle, so I can staple it pow right there. So I need to provide a let-in down here as well. So I'm going to do that again with the node edit. This time I'm going to be kind of conscious about which side I'm going to. So in this case, because I did it on the other side up there, I'm going to do it on this side down here so that I get a little better locking in. So it locks in this way, locks in that way. Again, you want to make sure to do that fillet. So we're gonna turn off the reference layer. We're gonna go over here. We're gonna get our fillet tool, and we're just gonna make sure that that's got a little relief there. I don't remember if I did it at the top. I did not. So there we go. And now, with all of that material in place, now we've got the beginnings of our CNC pieces being able to lock in. So now we'll just come back and we'll bring the rest of this framing in place. I'm just going to use some of these pieces, moving around, copying and pasting, and then I'm going to figure out what my sheet layout looks like, and then I'm going to go from there. Now I've got all the framing in, and I did 2 foot on center framing supports here. Now I've got a reference sheet of 48 by 96 to show where my seam breaks would be. I already did this side, but I'm going to do this side, and I'm just going to select this component and move it right there. Control C, Control V, and I'll do another one there. That way I get a bigger seam break for that. It just can be a little easier. So my plan right now is to use this one side, and I'll take my sheet up here and say, okay, I've got 96 inches this way. So I also know that my breadsticks are not going to be that big either. So I need to double up the framing here for a seam support. So I can add a line here and just go, hey, there's going to be a break here, and then I can say, all right, well, let's take this one, Control C, Control V, 0 or 9 will rotate, and then you can just take this, put it in place right there as your full support for between toggle to toggle, right? And then I know I've got a seam break there. Want to do the same thing up over here somewhere, maybe just up one more thing. So Control C, Control V. I'm going to take this one and maybe put it in here, right? So that can be just fine. And there it is. All right. So now I've got my framing support for there. So now I've got a sheet that runs here, and then a sheet that'll be there. So I got a sheet up here, sheet down here, sheet over here, or half a sheet, or whatever that ends up being, and a small little scrap here. And then I'll just do the one in the middle, right? So the trick here is that I will need to double up for seam support here, because I've got this seam running all the way up, and then this seam running all the way up, and then so I need in the middle to have those seam supports. So I don't need the sheet anymore. That's kind of not helping me a great deal. So pick one, Control C, Control V, rotate into space, send that into your opening, right? Because you're going to want to double that, and then send that down into your framing here, so it's doubled. And then you just want to come back and modify your node, right? So with this, so you can go back into your node edit tool. So I kind of did more than I needed to with that, right? Because I don't need it that way. So I'm going to delete this point, D for delete, move that over there, right? So now I'd do this piece and then I'd add that piece in, right? So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So a simple trick. And then down here also I need to modify my nodes slightly, right? There we go. And then something to let that in. L to turn that into a line, just hover on it. And then again you have the same trick, put that piece in, put that piece to attach to it. Now I've doubled up my seam. So I can frame this side together, put it in place, frame this side into the CNC pieces, and the same on the other side. And then I've got seam support for all of my sheet goods there. So at this point it's looking pretty good. I'm going to start laying out to put my CNC parts onto the sheet, and I'm going to go back at this point, make sure that I've got all of my dog bones into areas, add the extra framing for my seam breaks for the doubles on the sides, and then I'll start laying out for sheet goods and putting my CNC parts into a sheet good layout. So you can see I've added in my other pieces. I've got all my framing in place. I'm ready to start. I've moved everything framing wise. It's not a CNC part. I redid some of the labeling here. Onto a framing reference layer because it's going to be referenced for when I do the CNC file. So at this point I just want to show this is the CNC part, right? So it comes into this corner right here, right? These red lines, which I can turn off right now. But it comes in here is the sharp point, right? So it doesn't end on a sharp point. It ends in a flat. The whole thing goes flat. And it goes into more material. So there's no like fine point to break off there. So that's why this is a good little strategy with the dado, because you've got it, it's got a place to live, it's got a reference that you can easily plot into place, and it'll snap into place, it won't break off on the machine. These other little bits, it doesn't matter if the point breaks off, you've got enough meat for putting that together. All right, so now with frame reference off, so we're going to do our CNC parts, and then we're going to lay them out into the sheet here. So I've got, this is longer than 8 feet, so I need to break this up at least into one piece, or into two pieces, right? So I can just do like that, and now I've got a line to go across. Let's move that to layer, oh no, I don't want it there. I'll move it to layer CNC part. And then I'm going to work in layer CNC part, and I'll turn that off. Okay, so now I've got a line to cross here. So I'm just going to Control C, Control V, copy that, go over to my favorite little tool here with the scissors, clip, 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 makes that really good. So I've got this side. So now I need this side. So I got to subtract the stuff I don't need, which is that, that, and that. Boom. And now just put the two parts back together, right? And you'll be able to see it when I turn the reference back on. Boom, we look great. Okay, so the other thing I need is labels on this. So I need, I'll use my text tool and call this part 1, P1 for part 1. And then I come down here, P2 for part 2. And then I've got a label here on this one, but I don't want it. I want to change that to be part 3, or whatever you're calling these things. It doesn't really matter. And so now I've got those parts. So I want to Control C, Control V, copy them and bring them down here. Now I'm going to start laying them out onto the place where they're going to get cut. So this first one, I'm going to keep the label with it. I'm going to rotate it. Here I'm going to use 1 as the angle of rotation, and just hit that a few times until I get it to what I want. And there it is. Now remember, this is a Hollywood flat, so I need 2 sides, right? Because I need it to have the depth. So it's not just a flat Broadway, so it needs both. So I'm going to bring this one over here. I'm going to do the same thing and apply the 1 degree turn there, and that looks good to me. Bring that up here. Control C, Control V for that one, and then there it is. This part probably will fit in space. 0 and 9 to rotate, and then just bring it up. Yeah, it's great, no problem there. Again, I need a second one. Control C, Control V, and there's my second one. Right, so now I've got it laid out. I've got room for more stuff here, but you can see you've got everything you need right here. And short of sheet goods, which I probably could have done with sheet good layout here, done another layer for that. But at this point, I've got my 3/8 being referenced, my 3/8 at the top being referenced, all my framing being referenced. So at this point, I could export this file. Not that, but I could file export as a DXF, and then just go right into AutoCAD and start press pulling and making this into a fully realized thing. So there it is, and off you go to the races.